Yes, YouTube punk, you are here first. 1,000 pine points, Lucifer Almighty. Not to be confused with Satan. He's the younger cousin. 500 pine points to you, and James the cool kid. You say almost, but no. You're here. 250 pine points. Moon shoes, you're the loser. What's this guy's name? John Marriott. Man, he's writing 3 books. He's coming out with his 3rd book on people leaving Christianity. My goodness, if I weren't such a cynic, I'd say something like, "You're just trying to make money off this thing, off the fear of Christian parents who are scared that their kids are going to go to hell." By the way, it'd be really refreshing if Sean McDowell and John Marriott would just come out and say that this is what it's all about. You come close in this video, but just come out and say why this is important to you. I'm making this video, I'm writing these books because I'm scared our youth and even older people are going to end up in hell. And that's what it's all about. In fact, I have a clip of a church office finding out that one of their youth is doubting Christianity and may leave Christianity. Here's a clip of that church office.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody calm down.
Yeah, so that's actual footage of, I forget what church that was. But yeah, it's serious business. They really panic and freak out. Let's see here. I'm going to skip around here, but the title of this video is "A Checklist Before Leaving Your Faith." Of the video I'm critiquing. My video is "Leaving Christianity for Bad Reasons is Okay because it's false." I've made many videos where I've said you should leave Christianity because you find the core propositions of Christianity to be false. You're convinced that they're false. You should not leave Christianity because someone hurts you in the church or because you're gay and they don't accept you. You shouldn't leave Christianity for that reason. I've said this many times, but John Marriott changed my mind. And here's how he changed my mind.
A slight bit. I am as concerned with people who make emotional decisions for Jesus as I am for people who make emotional decisions away from Jesus. Jesus says, if you're going to follow me and be my disciple, then you need to count the cost. You need to think about this. And I don't think that Jesus is looking for people to make emotional decisions and rash decisions. I think he wants people to think about whether or not they're convinced that it's true and if they're willing to make him the Lord and to follow him. And when I'm at a summer camp or an altar call or something like that, and people go forward and make a decision, I'm as concerned with those people making a decision for what might not be the best of reasons. Now, here's the difference. Because I think that Christianity is true, then even if it hasn't been for the best of decisions, then the outcome is still going to be okay.
Hear that? It's very nice of John Marriott to be concerned that people are not coming to Christ for bad reasons. But he's saying that even if they're not coming to Christ for good reasons, he thinks Christianity is true, so it's okay. They'll be okay. Now, why can't I say that as an atheist? We atheists think that Christianity is false. So if someone leaves Christianity for bad reasons because of hypocrites in the church, for example, that's okay. They'll be okay because Christianity we think is false.
But if I think that if they're leaving the faith and it's for the wrong reasons, and if it's for an emotional reason and not one that's indicative of truth or that Christianity is false, then that concerns me greatly because
Oh. He's not concerned if people become Christians for bad reasons, but he's concerned greatly if people leave Christianity for bad reasons. It's okay to come to Christianity for bad reasons, but it's not okay to leave Christianity for bad reasons. You need really, really, really good reasons to leave Christianity. But coming to Christianity, hey, if you watched Benny Hinn one day on TV and you got a little tingle in your back, in the back of your neck, you felt a little something and you thought that was God and that led you to Christianity, hey, that's okay. You know, that's not really a good reason, but Christianity is true, so don't worry about it. But if you want to leave Christianity, I mean, you need to have read at least 100 books and talked to at least 20 different apologists. Because odds are you really don't know what you're talking about. You probably just believe these atheist websites. You got to have like a tremendous amount of knowledge to leave Christianity. But to enter Christianity, all you need is faith like a child, right?
Because the outcome of the consequence is tragic. So,
yeah, see, this is the closest he got to saying the word hell.
Because the outcome of the consequence is tragic.
He used the word tragic. Oh, that bothers me so much. I don't know why. Maybe because I think they're hiding something and not telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And because they know that by giving the reason why this is so important, that in itself leads people away from Christianity because the concept of hell is so repugnant. Now, not all Christians believe in the concept of eternal conscious torment, but I am quite sure these two do. Okay, I want to play another part. I don't want to play stuff that I've already talked about in the past. Basically, in fact, you know what? Sean gives a good summary here. Where is it? Yeah, it's about here. He summarizes the whole video in a couple of minutes. Does a really good job. Yeah, right about there.
That's really helpful. Let me catch everybody up. Some people just joined us as we're talking with John Marriott. Has a great new book coming out months ahead of the time we're recording this, giving us an early kind of synopsis of it. It's called Before You Go, and the subtitle is Uncovering Hidden Factors in Faith Loss. And you're arguing that there's non-rational factors play a bigger role in deconversion than we often give it credit to. We've talked about a misunderstanding of reason, the role of intuition, the power of culture, but you also have an excellent chapter on emotion. Talk a little about...
See, what's crazy about this is, for the most part, I agree with what John Marriott's saying because he's just parroting the work of Jonathan Haidt and some other psychologists, saying that the reason why, how and why we come to beliefs is multifaceted, multifactored, and cognitive level 2 type sitting down and thinking about things is usually not the first thing or near the top of the list of why people believe what they believe. Usually how they were raised, culture, emotions, values, all these different things. And all that I agree with. And I've been bringing this up for years, but when I bring it up, I'm called a psychologizer. And you know, when I say the reason why people believe in Christianity is not because of the minimal facts argument, not because of the 5,000 manuscripts, it's because of the experience they had at summer camp of what they thought was the Holy Ghost touching their life or seeing a miracle in church or whatever. And I get a lot of flack for that. And then comes along John Marriott, PhD, saying basically the same thing, except flipped. And I think a lot of Christians have no problem with that.
What role emotions can and often do play.
But I'm not bitter.
In terms of deconversion. The way you word it is that reason is often in service to our desires and passions, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's a David Hume statement, and that is that very similar to what we said about values, is that the intuition comes first or the emotion comes first, and then the reason comes afterwards. And this is not...
I think I have a video that actually has that title.
Not just the case in deconversion.
Beliefs come first, reasons come second.
We're not picking on deconverts specifically here. We're saying that this is often the case in how we go about reasoning as human beings, as people who are complex, body, soul, emotion, valued people. And so sometimes, as we go about thinking about big issues and important issues, we can't escape the fact that emotions play a major
PhD from Biola? No, I don't think he's from Biola. I think he's from Moody.
role. And sometimes if you have a set of
Am I? Actually, you know what? I'm not sure. You can Google that.
expectations and you feel as though they haven't been met, like God has really hurt you, there's a sense of betrayal there. And when you feel betrayed by someone like God, then there's the natural response to want to push away.
See, throughout this whole video, he's operating under the assumption that, of course, Christianity is true. And I can sort of understand why he's operating under that assumption. But from the perspective of the person who's doubting Christianity or leaving Christianity or has left Christianity, the whole concept of being bitter at Jesus or being angry at Jesus, that just falls away. That's no longer an issue because you don't believe Jesus is God. If you've deconverted, you don't believe that he did the miracles and that he's inside of you and you walk and talk with him and you pray to him. No, none of this applies anymore.
And push back and although you may not deny him anymore, you're not going to give him what he wants, which is a relationship or any kind of worship. And this is often the case. You see this in people who have returned to the faith and they say, hey, I left, but I'm back. And I got to be honest, I never realized it at the time, but really what was driving a lot of my doubt and my disbelief was I was just straight up angry. I was angry at God. I'm thinking specifically now of a woman I know who I'm friends with who had been had been a Christian for.
Simon O'Dowd, thank you for the donation. I'm surprised that apologists are willing to say Hume but not hell. Both lead Christians away from their belief. Yeah, good point. You're just a few letters off, John Marriott, from Hume to hell.
A number of years, planted some churches, worship leader, and really, 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 really wanted God to provide her a husband. And she ended up with a husband who was abusive. Then she ended up with a husband who turned out to be sexual.
Oh my goodness. How stupid is this? A Christian woman, really, really, really wanted a husband. She ended up getting a husband who was abusive and homosexual. Here's a tip for all the young'uns out there. If you're desperate to get married, that's a sure sign you should not get married. You should only get married when you don't need to get married. You hear what I'm saying? So I shouldn't say the word only. It can still work if you kind of made a mistake early on in life. But if you are desperate to get married, like who wants to be with you if you're desperate? I know some guys might say, well, that's great, Doug. They're desperate for me. Well, yeah, for maybe a week or two, you're going to feel that way. And wait till the honeymoon phase wears off. And that desperation is going to get pretty sick pretty fast. No, don't be desperate. When you're desperate, that's when mistakes happen.
And both of those marriages fell through. The church that she was a part of blamed her for some of it and told her that she needed to leave. They didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore because she was a sinful person. And all of that combined brought her to the place where she said, I just don't believe that God exists anymore. I don't think that any of this is true. Now, recently she's had an experience in her life where she was brought to the end of herself and in desperation cried out to God. And God, I actually think, did a miracle for her.
Okay, this whole video was mostly about how atheists shouldn't leave Christianity for emotional bad reasons. Emotions could be one of the bad reasons. And he's saying, same with Christianity. You shouldn't become a Christian for these emotional reasons because you heard a lovely song at church or whatever. And then he tells a story about how a woman screwed up her life by marrying the wrong guy and then is desperate to get married and then is desperate again because why did God fail me? Because I screwed up in who I chose as a life partner. And then John Marriott believes that she had a miracle from God to pull her back. Really? This woman does not sound stable. This woman sounds like she's prone to make rash, bad decisions over and over again. And you think God, in her period of utmost desperation, gave her a miracle. What's more likely? That God intervened in her life, or that she had another episode of some type of experience that was triggered by her brain that was desperate, in pain, emotional pain? Ugh.
Wow.
Wow.
And when I talk with her afterwards about it, she indicates that her journey away from God and into the world that she went into was largely motivated out of anger and out of resentment and out of heartbrokenness, that she ended up rationalizing and justifying with all.
But that's okay. It's okay to leave Christianity because you're angry, because you're emotional, because you were hurt by the church. According to John Marriott, see, I think Christianity is false, along with all other atheists in the world. So they're going to be okay if they leave false beliefs. Right, John Marriott? That's what you said earlier about you don't need good reasons to enter Christianity because Christianity is true. Well, I'm saying it's okay to leave Christianity for emotional bad reasons because Christianity is false. Experiments in prebiotic chemistry. Wow, thank you for the very generous donation. When you abandon empiricism, any imaginary being can serve as the cause of the origin of the universe, objective morality, etc. Please prove that Twinkles, the flying unicorn, didn't create the universe. Yeah, don't you hate it when people say things like, well, prove my religion wrong? And then when you even bring up inconsistencies or contradictions in their holy text, well, no, I can explain it this way. Prove it wrong. It's like you just can't win, right? And this gets maybe to the emotional part that John Marriott's talking about, is that the belief gives them something and they will fight till their death sometimes to hang on to it, to cling on to it, because they feel they need it to have hope, meaning, and purpose, explanation, morality, that sort of thing. But thanks for the generous donation. That was a mixture of donation and generous. Donacious.
But those came after the fact. They didn't come before the fact. And I think that this is often the case. Not the case necessarily with every person who leaves the faith. So if you're out there now and you're listening and you're saying, well, who do these guys think they are? You know, psychoanalyzing us and telling us that this is why we left. And that's not the case with everybody. But often, if it's value driven, if it's emotion driven, those come first, and then the reasons follow.
Yeah, and what's more emotionally driven than saying to someone, God loves you. He loves you so much. He gave his son as a sacrifice for you. That's how much he loves you. He has prepared a place for you in heaven. And if you reject this gift, you may suffer for eternity. But don't worry. All you have to do is accept this gift and have a relationship where Jesus will focus his attention on you. How is Christianity not at its foundation not only about emotion? It's about love, love, love. Jesus loves you, this I know. And fear, fear, fear. You don't accept the gift. God is a just God. His wrath is upon you. Thank you for another generous donation, 1 penny less. Ancestral Flying Man. Doug, I'm making an emotional decision to give you money, not guided at all by logic. Is this wrong? Well, Ancestral Flying Man, if that is wrong, let me tell you, you don't want to be right. Are you like those old ladies who knit and then you see a infomercial and you pick up the phone and you start buying it? For some reason, I don't think you are like the old ladies who knit. Okay, there is some new stuff in here. It's interesting when a Christian brings up Santa Claus. So I want to bring up that part and relate it to something else he said.
it happens for the vast majority of people, it is almost always a death by 1,000 cuts. And it's not as though that there's a rejection as much as there is a loss. And maybe an analogy would be, at some point we find ourselves not believing in Santa Claus. And the reason why is because we can't have a coherent worldview that includes everything we know about the nature of reality and Santa Claus. One of those things has to go. He can't fly around the world, you know, and he can't carry all of those presents. And
Santa Claus can't fly around the world. It can't carry all those presents. It does not match reality, he says.
he can't squeeze himself up and down chimneys. And so you either get rid of your belief in Santa Claus as you accumulate more beliefs about the way the world works. You try and live in tension, keeping both of those, but that's almost impossible. Or you get rid of your beliefs about the natural world and hold on to beliefs about Santa Claus.
Or if you accept all those miraculous things Santa does, you can do that. You can accept it, but then you have to let go of all the natural world. Is basically what he's saying. How we view the world naturalistically. Isn't it interesting how you could basically say the same thing about Jesus? Instead of Santa fitting through a chimney, it's Jesus walking through walls in the Gospel of John. Instead of Santa on his sleigh traveling the world, it's Jesus ascending up into a cloud back to the kingdom of heaven. Or standing with Satan on a hill and seeing all the kingdoms around the world.
That you, I think, choose to do. I think it is something that eventually happens, and one day you realize, Santa Claus isn't real. Like, no.
Jesus isn't God. No.
And it's something that you realize has happened to you, not necessarily something that
a light
you
went
have
off.
chosen. And I think that's the case with most believers. I would say that they haven't lost, they haven't rejected their faith as much as it is they've just realized it's gone.
Yeah, you just become convinced over time. I agree with that. Now, this is something new that I haven't heard John say before. But listen, guess what type of apologetic he's leaning towards here.
And those who are deconverting, parents, etc., pastors. But one of the chapters that really jumped out to me is you talk how many deconverts cite reason is why they leave the faith. But you take issue with this explanation. Why?
Well, I take issue with it because as a philosopher, you know that the first question that you always ask in exchanges like this is when someone says, you know, I'm doing this because it's reasonable, or I made my choice based on reason. The first question is, well, what do you mean by reason?
Okay, I just played a clip, and this clip was a few minutes before this one. I played a clip where he talks about people have a belief in Santa, and then as they grow older, or as they learn more about the world, they lose their belief that Santa is real and can do all these things. Now, but when it comes to people growing out of Christianity, he talks about, for what they would say is for reasonable, rational reasons, he would say, what do you mean by reason? If someone said, I no longer believe that Santa fits through a chimney to bring down presents to me, would John Marriott say to that person, that young person probably, well, what do you mean that it's not reasonable that a Santa would come down the chimney? What do you mean by reason? No, John wouldn't say that at all. John would say, yeah, I understand. I used to believe in Santa too, but I don't any longer. But when it comes to Christian belief, and someone say, I no longer believe a man walked on water and told the winds to calm down. It's just not a reasonable belief. Then he shifts to, well, what do you mean by reason and reasonable?
We need to get our definitions straight. We need to have a common understanding. And I tend to think that there's a general misunderstanding of what reason is. When you listen to people who have left the faith, or even sometimes people who have become Christians, they will say, hey, I came to this conclusion because it was reasonable, or I value reason and I value logic. And it seems as though that there's an understanding there that reason is an ultimate criterion or some transcendent.
You hear where he's going with this. He's saying he's becoming a precept apologist when he's talking to former Christians who say they left for rational, reasonable reasons. Very interesting. Sean asked a really good question at the 13-minute mark that almost made me laugh out loud here.
And if we can address that, then maybe the objection starts to dissipate on its own without having to refute it in an apologetic kind of a way.
Good stuff. Well, we'll get to some of those factors you're talking about, but one more question before we jump in. You said in your book that a Christian should be willing to give Christ the benefit of the doubt until they're convinced it's not true. Now,
yeah. Give the Bible the benefit of the doubt until you're convinced it's not true. In other words, believe it's true until it's proven that it's not.
I'm curious, would you give the same advice to a Muslim who's deconverting, or an atheist that's deconverting, or just for Christians that Christ...
Right. Oh, Sean, excellent question. So atheists out there, if we take John Marriott's advice, notice how he's looking up and to the left? He's thinking. Atheists, you should give atheism, naturalism, the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. Your default position, atheist, should be that there are no gods. All the religions of the world, their core propositions are false. Don't change your opinion on that until proven otherwise, until demonstrated otherwise. Give naturalism the benefit of the doubt. That's John Marriott's advice when it comes to Christianity. You can use it too.
Christ should get the benefit of the doubt, and why or why not?
Well, that's a great question, and I can't say that I've thought about it before, but as you express it, what I would say would be that when it comes to the things that are very important to us, that are at the core of who we are, that give us our identity, that provide meaning in life for us, that may structure a lot of the relationships that we have. Before we start pulling the Jenga block out of the tower, we might want to have another Jenga block ready to put in its place. And by that, I mean, in deconstructing and...
Yeah. So he's saying, this is how he's getting through this great question. He's saying, before we start pulling apart our worldviews, our deeply held beliefs, we got to have something to replace it. Okay, John Marriott, what did you replace Santa Claus with? Did you have a replacement for Santa before you deconstructed out of believing that Santa brought you presents? You didn't need a replacement for Santa, did you? You just grew out of it. You didn't need anything to replace it. Your life didn't come crumbling down when you realized over time that Santa's not real. You were okay. And Christians, when you leave Christianity, you'll be okay as well. You might even be more than okay. There'll be a transition period where might lose some friends, but I think in the long run you'll be just fine and dandy.
Pulling apart faith,
except for when you hit hell, then
and rethinking it. I think it's helpful to do that, but unless you have something to put in its place, then your structure becomes weak. And I would say that when it comes to these deeply held issues that are really core and close to the heart of who we are, that that we should give the benefit of the doubt to the systems of thought, to the relationships that have reared us, if those are good and healthy kinds of relationships, right? So if I was a Muslim growing up, and I grew up in a family that was loving and caring and kind, and I grew up in a community and in a mosque that was loving and caring and kind, and that provided me with insight and beliefs, and also beliefs that were that determined my eternity, then I would think that you should give that system the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. You hear what he's saying here? Christians, John Marriott, a fellow Christian, is saying to Muslims who may be doubting Islam, to not do anything rash, to give Islam the benefit of the doubt. If you have a kind, caring mosque and you're good imam, and if you have a system of carrots and sticks, if there might be a lot at stake here if you leave Islam and you end up in hell. So when a non-Muslim causes you to doubt, there's ways you can harmonize. You can look at different translations. You can look at different scholars in Islam to help you through it, and just give the Quran and Islam the benefit of the doubt. This is the depths that John Marriott has to go to in order to answer Sean's question and not look like a hypocrite. Because if he just comes out and says what I think he really thinks, oh no, just give Christianity the benefit of the doubt because it's true. Remember, I played a clip where he said, it's okay to come into Christianity for bad reasons because I think it's true. So you'll be okay. So yeah, give the Bible the benefit of the doubt. When you read something that seems a little weird and wacky, give it the benefit of the doubt that it really happened. Because it's true. Now, if he just comes out and says, oh, but don't do that for Islam. Don't do that for Mormonism. Don't do that for naturalism. Don't do that for evolution. No. No, because those are false. He can't say that, but I actually think he believes that. But then he would look like the ultimate hypocrite. Okay, was there anything else interesting here? He gives an example of deconversion. One guy's a Marxist, the other person is a transgender. Just cranking up the fear for those Christian parents. Oh, if my child leaves Christianity, they might become a communist? A communist transgender? Oh no. That'd be a good sitcom. Communist transgender. Yeah, I think that's all I want to do. I actually have a guy who's supposed to come and talk to me about the evidence of the Bible. Are you here yet, Tanner? Thank you for the donation, Cube Dude 76. Should I give atheism the benefit of the doubt if I had a bad experience with Christianity growing up? Yes, definitely. Even if you come to atheism for emotional reasons, Cube Dude 76, I think atheism is true, so you'll be okay. What's the worst that could happen by leaving Christianity and becoming an atheist? Really, because, you don't need good reasons to become an atheist and leave Christianity if atheism is true and Christianity is false. Communist transgender furry. Or is it fury? Communists are delightful. That's the thing. I really do think that guys like John Marriott, when they picture an atheist who leaves Christianity, they're picturing communism and gays and people who would lick the toes of Joe Biden and probably all the things that they don't like. But look at me. Besides, I'm sure John Marriott and I are very similar in a lot of ways. But I'm an atheist. I think John Marriott would feel comfortable being around me. I'm not a communist. I'm not a Joe Biden toe licker. I'm not transgender. I'm not gay. I lean right. I'm Canadian. I can't vote here, so I think John Marriott would say, oh yeah, you're in my tribe. But I'm an atheist. It's like those commercials with the Mormons. They just all the normal things of life, and then at the end they say, and I'm a Mormon. Okay, so let me open up the room. I'll take callers before the other guy gets here. His name's Tanner. If anybody sees him in the live stream chat, let me know. What? Okay. I have no idea if it's going to go well or not, or if he'll show up. Hey, thank you for the donation, Jay Bundy. Is it okay to send money for bad reasons? Yeah, definitely. Because sending money to PineCreek is true. Okay, so I put the link up on how to get in here. I'm curious. Yeah, I'm willing to take callers who are willing to admit they left Christianity for bad reasons. And I will comfort you in saying, well, that's okay because Christianity is false anyhow. So you'll be okay. No, I'm not going to play any tournaments at the World Series of Poker, but I am playing poker tonight. So if anybody who is interested in playing poker, small stakes, no limit hold'em, it'll be video, audio, software package. Email me if you're interested. Buy-ins $10 minimum, $50 maximum. We can make a quick gay test with PineCreek. Got any pictures of what you wore in the 80s? That's a good question. Do I? I probably do. Well, yeah, I have my graduation pictures, high school graduation. Room's open. But yeah, I've been watching some World Series of Poker. If you don't hunt as a man, then you play poker. That's how it works. Do not, I repeat, do not play poker with Doug. Why is that, Anthony? Don't scare people away. Anthony did, well, yeah, you did really well last Sunday. But then the kind of fell off the precipice at the end. Are there any Christians who want to come in and admit to me that they became a Christian for bad reasons? Oh, there you go. Yeah, so until Tanner gets here, Christians or atheists, even Muslims, are you willing to admit to me that you either left for bad reasons or became a Christian for bad reasons? That takes a big person to admit that. And then later on, when you researched Christianity, you found the good reasons, but initially you came in for bad reasons. Satan's little helper, you changed your name. I liked Holy Shift. Assuming I'm seeing your picture right. I was born into Christianity, so yeah, well, a lot of people are. 90% of the, I think, is it 90%? Is it that high? You can predict what religion a person is just based on the country they're born in. Do I think Mike Winger is delusional? No. No, he's a person who became a Christian for emotional reasons. He needed love, acceptance, father figure. And then as he grew older, he used confirmation bias to come find reasons to be a Christian. If you call Mike Winger delusional, you have to call basically, I don't know, 20% of all America delusional. Some people say, yes, Doug, you're right. It is about 20%. 95% of believers have the same faith as their parents. Oh, I wouldn't say same, but similar. Former true Christians call in. Or even true Christians still, but willing to admit that you might not have become a Christian for a good reason. Or left Christianity for a good reason. if 40% of the United States is delusional, my advice is don't leave the house. Stay inside, lock the doors, and get a German Shepherd dog. Depends how you define delusional. Like when I think of delusion, I think of people seeing stuff regularly that's not there. Now, how many Christians would say that they see things that are not there, like that they can't share that experience with someone else and that they've seen what they're seeing? Now, Christians will admit that they have a personal relationship with Jesus, but there's very few Christians who would say, yeah, that means I sit down and I eat with him every night at 6 o'clock and I hold his hand. No, they don't say stuff like that. If they did, then I'd say they're delusional. But if all they're saying is that this idea of Jesus is in their thoughts and they think about this idea that they call Jesus, no, I don't think that's delusional. I think that's, you can call it maybe wishful thinking or I don't know. I think delusional is a little more serious. People can see demons and other things while awake. Yeah, well, yeah, once a Christian starts telling me that they're seeing angels and demons, then I think we're on to the definition of delusional. Now, it depends on what they mean. Like, there's a lot of Christians say, I've seen a demon, but what they really mean is they've seen a person act crazy. And who hasn't? Almost everybody here has seen other people act crazy. And they just interpret that as being a demon. But did they actually see a demon? Like, I don't know, but is it any better? I think it is. Like, if someone says, right now I'm seeing a demon floating above the floor, wearing red, smiling at me, I think that's a little more serious than just seeing a crazy person roll around and say, oh, that's a demon inside them. Room's open. Did you become a Christian for bad reasons? In your own opinion. What about speaking in tongues? Is that delusion? Well, that's a good question. No, I still wouldn't say that's delusional. I would say that's people just purposely doing stuff to make them feel better. They do get a dopamine rush from speaking in tongues. I've seen a demon. I was shopping for a car and the showroom was sporting a $130,000 demon. She was sexy. Well, better be sexy for $130K. Come for the looks, stay for the performance. Oh. For a car in the showroom. Hey, Ryan. I remember you. You're on, Ryan. Let me get you on here. Yeah.
So, okay.
I've talked to you before, right?
Yeah, we were in a group chat just some random night. I forget who hosted it, but it was John Buck, you and I.
Oh yeah, John Buck.
A couple other people.
Was that the night where I took my sword out and I started with John Buck?
Maybe after I left.
So you're an atheist, right?
Yeah.
And were you ever a Christian?
Yep. So, I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family, and then I we had an apologetics class in school. So that was part of Catholic school, was they had an apologetics class. And taking that was kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, because uh, there was, like, after I had the class, that's kind of what I clung to as the reason why I believed.
But it really wasn't.
I guess it wasn't for 95% of my life, and then I took the class, and then it was the reason why I believed for about 5% of my life until I became unconvinced that the arguments were any good. So,
How long did it take from the taking apologetics to you being out of Christianity? How many years?
not long at all. I would say the next semester.
Yeah. See, this is why I say I support apologetics, because it
Yeah.
brings up questions that someone might not have thought of, and then they research it, and then they leads to more questions and more questions, and it's the domino effect.
Yeah, I think that was the case for me. But I thought the stream was kind of interesting because it brought up, I mean, at least for that guy, a pretty palpable double standard between becoming Christian and becoming a non-Christian.
Yeah. Yeah. How many times have we heard, well, I don't believe in that God either. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in, well, I don't believe in that God either. So you really don't know the true Christianity. And to that, I always say, no, I'm a mere Christianity atheist. I just don't believe a man rose from the dead 2,000 years ago. The rest, who cares? Yeah, and you have to read so many books. You have to be well versed in philosophy to leave Christianity. But to enter it, all you have to do is have a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, or in my case, get raised in a particular household.
Yeah. Yeah, Tangela's asking, do you have good reasons to be an atheist? Have you seen my video, or have you seen my video where I say there's no good reasons for atheism?
Yeah, I have seen that one, and I guess I would say it kind of depends how we define God.
Yeah.
Because I think that some really, really broad definition of God, I think you're probably right that agnosticism, or just having no opinion whatsoever, is perfectly fine, and probably the most reasonable approach. But once you start tacking on, properties to God, saying God, if God exists, he must be like X, Y, Z, then you can actually start to investigate that and see, like, okay, is that consistent with how the world looks?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say there's definitely good reasons to be atheistic towards Christianity or Islam.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of where, and I feel like there's not that many deists who just believe in a God. I don't know if I've ever really met a serious deist. I don't know.
There's one that is a subscriber to my channel named Brother John, and I think he's been a deist for as long as I've been on YouTube for years now. But yeah, I agree. I think most people who are deists, they realize, well, they can't justify it. They basically have to say, it gives me warm, fuzzy feelings to know that we're just not here by chance, I guess.
But I feel like that's not even where you get the most of the warm, fuzzy feelings. I think where you get most of the warm, fuzzy feelings is like an afterlife, or seeing your loved ones again, or having a friend to pray to. I feel like that's where you get the most psychological.
But do most
benefit.
deists believe in an afterlife? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think that being a deist, you might get a tiny, tiny sliver of the comfort that you would from another religion. But
Hillary's email says, I'm a deist. I believe in Maxwell's equations. That's her God.
Yeah, and see, that's if you define God broadly enough or loosely enough, then I mean,
did you just call God a loose broad?
Oh well, depends who you ask, I suppose. But.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyhow, I'll let you go and keep the room open for a Christian if he or she wants to come in. Thanks for hopping on, Ryan.
Yeah.
Tanner, are you here? If you are, tag me or just click the link above. He was actually, I'm a little, yeah, he said he'd be here at in 8 minutes. So I got 8 minutes if someone else wants to hop in. Floyd is having a live stream tonight at 7 Eastern. That's during poker, Floyd, where I will be reviewing Dr. Josh's discussion with Darth Dawkins. I'm generally okay with tentative evidence-based conclusions, and the best conclusion given the evidence is that all known gods are human inventions. I would agree with that smack dab. But there's things that would change my mind, and I said last live stream, every 3 months, if there is a God, this God should do a miracle to show his existence is real. Every 3 months around the world. Schedule it ahead of time. Dr. Josh will be joining you. Thank you for the donation. Experiments in prebiotic chemistry. If I end up in hell, how will I feel the fires of hell? Spiritual pain receptors? Well, you do have a spiritual body, a resurrected body, according to some end times theology. But yeah, whether you have neurons to feel or if it's just a cognitive pain, who knows? Hey, Midnight, are you there?
Mute the stream.
Yeah. Always mute the stream before you come in.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was a spur of the moment thing. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. So you're an atheist, right?
Yes.
Did you become?
You've seen me around.
Yeah, I've seen you around. Oh, why is there two of me? Were you a Christian though?
No, I was never a Christian. I went to Sunday school, had my communion and confirmation, but it's like I never believed. It's like the God virus never infected me.
Never infected you. All right. You were vaccinated at birth. So was there something you wanted to say?
No, not really. I mean, I just figured I saw you were, you had like a link here to join. I figured,
Okay. Well, I'm doing one at a time, and I got two other people, and one of them is I've kind of scheduled. So I'll let you go. But thanks for hopping in.
Oh, all right. Thanks. I didn't mean to cut in on anyone.
No, that's all right. Not your fault. Take care. Let's see here. Ah, Tanner's here. Sorry, Brent. I got to take Tanner because this is why we're here. Hi, Tanner.
Hey, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, and I can see you, and you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just so to let people know, you're a Christian, right?
Yes.
Can I ask you some like speed round questions to see what type of Christian you are?
Yeah, go for it.
Protestant or Catholic?
Protestant.
Adam and Eve, literal or not?
I'm not positive. I don't hold a strong position on that one.
Global flood, local flood, or no flood?
Same answer.
Jesus rose from the dead bodily? Yes or no? Yes. Jesus walked on water? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a heaven and hell?
Yes, absolutely.
What's hell like? Is it eternal conscious torment or annihilationism? Or neither?
I tend to agree with the way Frank Turek describes it. These descriptions of it seem to be more metaphorical for destruction.
Okay. But it's still eternal and real, a place?
I think so. at the end of the day, we can talk about the descriptions of it, but ultimately all it is separation from the standard of goodness.
Okay. How long have you been a Christian?
Let me think. Trying to think of 2016 to now. That's 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah, 5 years.
Name 3 apologists as fast as you can. First 3 that pop in your head.
William Lane Craig, Frank Turek, Mike Lecoq.
Okay. So I have a pretty good idea what type of Christian you are. You're very much like a type of Christian that I often critique and talk about, right? On my channel.
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you wanted to talk about the reliability of the Bible or something?
Yes. And I saw the title of your video and I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. Because I agree with you that it's a double standard. You shouldn't be able to be a Christian for bad reasons and then tell an atheist you can't leave the faith for bad reasons.
Okay.
So that is a double standard.
Yeah, I agree. What is and can you give me in one sentence why you're a Christian?
Let me try to narrow it down to one sentence. Personal experience led me to it. Apologetics confirmed the experience.
Say that one more time.
Okay. A personal experience led me to it.
Mm-hmm.
And apologetics confirmed that experience.
Okay. So you're a Christian today because you had some type of personal experience, and then as you dug deeper into the belief, you realized it was true, or you had good other reasons to believe it's true.
Well, I could expound upon that sentence more. There's an extra detail in there.
Okay, go ahead.
The experience was real. I really felt like it was the Holy Spirit that I came into contact with. But shortly after that, I did have some doubts because I didn't have any reasons. Like, I've been told this all my life and I feel like I experienced it, but, are there any reasons? And around that time, a debate it popped up on YouTube as a suggested video, and it was Frank Turek versus David Silverman. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. So I watched that, I listened to both sides, and that led me to just study both sides more, and that leads us to today.
Okay. I so badly want to talk about your personal experience, but you want to talk about the Bible stuff, right?
Well, I know where the personal experiences stand. I would never use them to try to prove Christianity. So I think talking about the reliability of the New Testament is more relevant.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about your personal experience, but just this one question kind of bothers me. And when it comes to personal experiences, personal meaning just you, right? There's nobody else around?
Right, yeah.
Right. If a Muslim has a personal experience, but they're not, like, to become a Muslim, and then they look for reasons to confirm Islam, they have a favorable idea of that personal experience. In other words, they liked it, right? What do you think that's going to do to how they view the evidence for Islam? Is it going to be favorable or not favorable?
It could influence their biases, absolutely.
Yeah. And this is the huge concern I have for people who come to Christ, come to Christianity for personal experience reasons, is because they will look at the evidence in a way to confirm what they already want to believe. Right? Okay. So as long as, everybody has biases, and the question is, how do we lower those biases? Okay, why do you believe the Bible is reliable? And first of all, do you believe that the Old Testament is as reliable as the New Testament?
I believe that due to the New Testament being reliable, you get the old one thrown in as well because Jesus authenticated it with his words.
Okay. And when you say reliable, what do you exactly mean?
Um, I don't. I wouldn't argue for certainty. I think it is reasonable beyond doubt to believe that it's historical.
Yeah. The thing is, there's parables and other things in the Bible that it's not supposed to be historical, so it's not historical, right?
Right.
Right. So, but you're saying that there's definitely things in the Bible that are historical that
Yes,
actually haven't passed.
absolutely.
And you know what? I agree with you. Now, is it reasonable to say that there are some things in the Bible that read as historical, but maybe is not?
Um, well, this is where I may lose. I don't know what the word is. I may lose favor with some fellow Christians, but I don't believe in inerrancy in the sense that most people would
Okay.
think of the word.
So does that mean that you are okay or open to the idea that the Bible could say something and it can sure look in context and read in context like it's making a truth claim, and you're saying that truth claim could be false?
Um, yeah, it could have some discrepancies.
Like for example, the one that Mike Lacona always brings up is the Matthew 27, the dead came out of the graves. Now, if you read it, even in context, it really reads like dead people came out of the graves and walked around Jerusalem, right? It doesn't seem like it's apocalyptic or figurative in language. It seems like the author's intent was to say, hey, there were dead people who actually came alive when Jesus died. Now, do you believe that that actually happened in the past?
All I have to say about Matthew 27 is what William Lane Craig said in his debate with Hitchens. He said he doesn't have a position on it, open to a number of interpretations. It's possible that it did happen, but it's also possible that Matthew was just writing in a like poetic, apocalyptic imagery type of
But
sense.
what if the intent of the author was not for apocalyptic imagery, but to actually have the reader believe that dead people came out of the graves and walked around when in fact it never happened? Do you think that is possible in the Bible?
I do think it's possible. I think that you were talking about mere Christianity. I think that the let me think of how to word this. I think we can know that Christianity is true based on a few core facts, and those core facts could authenticate the things that we're not as sure about.
Okay, well, that's a bit of a different topic because let's say you had some core facts that demonstrate Christianity is true, but you could still have the Bible being 51% non-reliable, right?
Well, that leads me back to the way I define the word inerrancy. And the way I define it is I think it's inerrant according to its purpose. And its purpose is to show that God has revealed himself through Jesus. Its purpose isn't to be like perfectly accurate historically or scientifically.
Okay, so what within the text of the Bible makes you think that, number one, there is a God out there described in the Bible, and that he has a son named Jesus? Like, what makes you think that that's true and reliable?
Okay, well, that there's a God.
God of the Bible.
Well, the way I find it best to do, you would need to establish that there is a general God first, and then you could seek which one it is.
Yeah, so I'm already giving you that, but how do you know, what makes you think that the Bible is reliable enough to say that the God described in it is actually real?
Okay, well, I think that what Paul says in Romans 1 is it's quite. I'm not sure if some of the classic apologetic arguments were derived from that or not, because it really seems like he's pretty much describing the kalam and the what's the word, intelligent design argument.
Well, he basically says that we know from nature that God exists.
Yeah.
But my question is, well, let's make it very specific. Are you a Trinitarian?
Yes.
What makes you think that Jesus is God?
The hold on, so many thoughts.
Or what? Yeah, just what pops in your head is what's the evidence that you see in the Bible that makes you say, yes, Jesus is God?
Yeah, my mind went blank there for a second. I was like, this is the worst time for this to happen.
That's all right.
I would say that I would refer to the 6 E's of authenticity that Frank Turek primarily champions.
Okay, take the first one. What's the first one?
The first one would be the early testimony.
Okay, so do you have a wife?
No.
Girlfriend?
Yes.
You trust her?
Yes.
Okay. What if your girlfriend came home tonight and said that someone that you both know who's been dead for like a year, she talked to this dead person, that the dead person came back to life? And then you ask her, what are you talking about? And she says, just 30 minutes ago, I talked to so-and-so who you both went to the funeral. Would you believe her?
I would have a tough time doing it. We would need to have.
You would have a tough time believing that she talked to a dead person who's now alive?
Yeah. The claim by itself, that's not enough information.
Okay, but let's be very clear. It's someone that you are talking to now, eye to eye, someone who you trust. It's your girlfriend. It's very early testimony. It's like within 30 minutes, and yet you still don't believe it.
Not with that information alone.
Yeah, but with the Gospels, they're written years, if not decades after, by people we can't look eye to eye with, and that we only know who they are through traditions that come a century later. Now, if it's hard for you to believe that your own girlfriend talked to someone who she claims rose from the dead, why would you believe a book written 2,000 years ago, as several books, who claim early eyewitness testimony?
Well, I would partially disagree about we don't have any references till decades later.
Well, let's say even years. Let's say 1 year later is still way worse than your girlfriend.
Okay. Well, are you aware of the what's it called? One Solitary Life?
Is it a book?
To my knowledge, it's just a short little paragraph. It's just a quote.
No.
Okay. All right. I don't know how to get off my phone and do this, but I would pull it up.
Well, what relevance does this have to do with eyewitness accounts?
Okay, well, this is how I would differentiate between the eyewitness account with my girlfriend and the ones of Jesus. To sum it up, it's mostly the influence that it's had on the world. That this serves your scenario. It doesn't carry the weight.
Okay. But now we're talking about something different than eyewitness accounts. Now we're talking about the influence that a belief has on the world, its effectiveness, its outcomes. But are we agreed that when it comes to eyewitness account, your girlfriend, who claims to have seen someone dead come back to life, you would still doubt that? Just that claim?
On its own, yes.
Yeah. And so do you doubt Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 when he claims that Jesus rose from the dead, or that 500 people saw Jesus rose from the dead?
No, I wouldn't doubt his experience.
Just based on that claim?
based on his claim, and I have no other access to any of the details.
Just like your girlfriend says, I saw a dead person, Paul says, I saw a dead person come back to life.
That would be hard to believe if that's all I have.
Okay, so you wouldn't believe your girlfriend and you wouldn't believe Paul, right?
Yeah, just to clarify, if I have no other access to anything about the Bible.
Okay. Now, what would it take for you to actually believe your girlfriend that she actually did in real life talk to someone who's been dead for a year? What sort of things would pop in your head that you would need to believe that?
Well, ideally, I would like to see it myself.
Yeah, me too. Okay, anything else?
Let me think. I'm trying to think of how I could be convinced. I know I could be.
Well, first we've got to make sure that this person really was dead, right?
Well, that'd be the first thing. Yeah.
How would we do that?
I guess we could look for their grave or something.
Yeah, we could go to where their grave was and see if it's empty. But then again, someone could be playing tricks and took the dead body out before we got there. I would think, like in today's technology, we could say, "Hey, you really look like a friend, a person I knew years ago who died, and you're standing in front of me. But you mind if I take a hair sample or bite into this, and we'll take your dental records or DNA?" I mean, we could run those tests and say, "Oh my goodness, this is the same guy who died. There's no doubt." Right? That would convince us, I think, would convince me that someone who's dead for over a year is now alive. Would that convince you too?
Yeah, if that happened, yeah, that would be undeniable.
Yeah. Notice we don't have anything even close to this for Jesus.
Right. Well, that's for the that's just due to the lack in advancement that we had.
Yep. But the thing is, do we use that as an excuse to believe it anyhow?
No, I would never use that as a reason. I would refer to the other E's along with the eyewitness testimony.
But what was this? Okay, what's the second E?
Okay, no, the first one was early, right?
Yeah, early eyewitness accounts, and yeah.
Well, one of them is early. The next E is eyewitness.
Okay, so we basically took care of both of those, and I think if you wouldn't believe your girlfriend, I don't think you should believe Paul.
Well, there is another reason as to why it would be hard to believe it. The other thing you could bring up, if you're taking Christianity into account, I believe that the canon is closed, and it'd be very hard to believe that a resurrection could happen again after Christ.
Well, that's kind of irrelevant, because what we're trying to figure out here is whether Christianity is true to begin with. So that the whole idea of even a canon and God's word is out the window. We're just basically saying, hey, we don't care if this is true or not. We have no skin in the game. We value truth. Let's get rid of our biases. We don't love Jesus. We don't hate Jesus. We don't care about Jesus. We just want to figure out, did this guy 2,000 years ago rise from the dead? And I would think that if you and I are the same, I wouldn't believe my wife if she told me she saw someone who's been dead for a year come back to life talk, and you wouldn't believe your girlfriend. And I think we both would believe if we had some type of forensic evidence that this is the same person who was indeed dead and is now talking to you, to me, to several people at the same time in a room, eye to eye. I think that would be sufficient for me. And I think you said it would be sufficient for you as well. But notice what we don't have. Notice if let's say your girlfriend died and left a diary for you, and you found it 20 years later that said she saw a dead person come back to life. Because we really don't. That's that's what we really have in the Bible. Paul's letters come about 20 years after Jesus, right?
Yes.
So imagine your girlfriend dying, and then 20 years later, you find a diary written by her saying, I talked to this dead person, and this dead person who came back to life appeared in front of 500. But your girlfriend doesn't list any names, so you can't even verify. Well, did this actually happen? And that was 20 years ago, and some of these people are already dead. Some of them are alive, but no names. That's what we have with Paul, right?
Well, I think when it comes to comparing these two, there's elements to the doctrine, or not the doctrine, the Christian theology overall that we're leaving out. And
well, we're trying to figure out if Christianity is true to begin with.
yeah, so you would have to leave out necessary elements in order to make these two scenarios compatible.
Like what are we leaving out?
Well, mine goes blank again.
Okay, early testimony, eyewitness accounts. I think we're basically done with those two, except for one other thing. With your girlfriend, it's your girlfriend looking you in the eye and saying, I saw this. We definitely don't have anybody alive from the biblical times, but do we have anybody who says, I saw this in the New Testament? This mean Jesus risen.
Do we have, what, I'm sorry, ask that again.
Do we have any testimony where someone says, I saw the risen Jesus found in the New Testament?
There might be, but to my knowledge, I'm not sure. Does John say? John might, I'm not sure though.
Well, actually, Paul says it.
Wait, you said the risen Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, we do have plenty of witnesses for that.
Okay, so let's name them. Who do we have? Paul?
We have Paul. We have the other disciples.
Name one.
Name one. Peter.
Okay, this might surprise you, but nowhere in the New Testament does Peter say, I, Peter, saw the risen Jesus. Did you know that?
I was not aware of that.
Like if you look in the book of First Peter, which even if you assume that Peter, the disciple, wrote First Peter, nowhere does it say that he saw the risen Jesus. He says that he's a witness to the turmoil and the travesties and the sufferings, but not to the resurrection.
James would be one, would he not?
Yes, James, the brother of Jesus. But if you read the book of James, which there's a lot of scholars are hesitant to say James actually wrote it, but let's say he did. I just read James the other day. Nowhere in James does James say, hi, I'm James, the brother of Jesus, and I saw with my own eyes Jesus rise from the dead. It's nowhere in there.
Well,
we don't have it for Peter. We don't have it for James. The next big disciple is John, right? Now, if you look at the Gospel of John, nowhere in the Gospel of John does it say, I am John, disciple of Jesus. I saw Jesus rise from the dead. You will not find that in the Gospel of John. Now, in 1 John, in Revelation chapter 1, which some people think John wrote, you do find it. And that's actually the only place other than Paul, but it's very clear that it's a vision in Revelation. If you look at the context, it's a vision. So basically, if you're taking the Frank Turek's E-test, eyewitness accounts, you have two, and it's Paul and maybe John, so let's say 1.5, and both, you can make a strong argument, both are visions.
Validity of the New Testament, not the resurrection alone.
Yeah, the validity of the New Testament to say that we can be confident that Jesus Christ rose from the dead, right?
That's one part of it, but just the overall story.
Like, try this on your own after go to Bible Gateway and bring up the whole Bible, whole book of Luke, for example, and hit Control F and type Luke. You will not find Luke's name in Luke.
Oh, yes. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So if we're talking about the reliability of the scriptures, of the texts, well, let me ask you this. I present you two documents. One document is signed by the author, the other one isn't. So one document, do you put any value on a signature? Like that one might be more reliable than the other?
I would say there's not enough information available, but given only that, the name would be more significant, it seems.
Me too. And you know why? It's because they're putting their reputation on the line. See, it's like just like when we're talking to people online who are hiding behind an avatar and who are using a fake name. It's like they can say whatever they want. Their reputation is not going to be hurt. But if you put your name and reputation on something, then it gives you a little more confidence that they took a little more time and effort to make sure that what they're saying is true and right. So having it signed is better than not. And citing your sources, would you agree, is better than not citing your sources?
Generally, yes.
Okay. If you read the Gospels, it's very clear that Matthew and Luke used Mark as a source. And guess what? They didn't say so.
Right.
They just used it and said, by the way, I got this from the author of this gospel. His name was Mark, who was an associate of Peter. Nowhere do they say that. So if you agree with me that someone who signs their name to a document and cites their sources clearly, it's better than not signing it, not signing your sources. I'm describing the Gospels on the non-reliable side. And would you say that a historian who looks at the evidence and critiques it and says, okay, so-and-so said this happened, so-and-so said that happened, I believe this person and not that person because of this. I think this probably happened in history, but this didn't because of these reasons. In other words, they critique their sources. They just don't believe blindly that their sources are correct.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can people in the live stream chat hear me?
Something messed up. I got a phone call.
Oh, yeah, that happens. Refresh. You can go out and come back in. Oh, let me type. Because you can't hear me. Silly me. He says, I can't hear you, and I say, refresh. Although I'm assuming he can read lips, I guess.
God, what did I just do?
Hang on.
Can you hear me? Okay. I got a phone call that came in, and ever since that phone call, I can't hear you. I don't know what is going on. Refresh, okay.
Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. Yeah. So basically where we're at is that, in my opinion, I don't find the Gospels as reliable as the historical documents for at least two of those reasons I just mentioned. All right, I mentioned three. Not signed, no reputation at stake, no citing of sources and no critique of their own sources. Oh, and then the obvious. The author doesn't say where and when they wrote it. That's a problem. Like now, Luke kind of.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah, Luke kind of gives you a range, but what genre do you think the Gospels are written in?
Which genre?
Yeah, genre.
I believe they're intended to be given as historical accounts.
Okay. How do you tell the difference between history and fiction?
You would have to. You would just have to evaluate it, see if it meets certain criteria.
Okay, and what kind of criteria?
I can't recall the historical criterias off the top of my head. Mike Lacona talks about them.
Okay, yeah, it's like
One of them
embarrassment. Criterion of embarrassment is one.
I mean, that could be one. Yeah. What? There's one that I'm thinking of.
Do you know what the biggest one is for me? It's called the principle of analogy. And to me, that's huge, because if you and I worked at a library and our job was to shelve books, but let's say they didn't put any titles on the book, all we had to do is read it to figure out if it's history or fiction. So if we open up a book and it says, I don't know, Lincoln went to such and such a city on such and such a date, you and I would look at each other, hey, this, it's not guaranteed, but this probably a history book.
Right.
Now, if we grab another book and we open it up and said that a guy named Myron walked on water, would you and I put that in the history section or the fiction section? Probably. We don't, we're not certain.
If we don't have any other information.
Yeah, just based on that.
Yeah, that is not something that happens in everyday life.
Yeah. Now the question is, what would we have to read in order to shift that, take it out of the fiction section and put it into the history section?
Well, it would have to have some sort of purpose for me. Like if it's just an empty claim on its own.
But doesn't fiction have purpose? Fictional authors write fiction for a purpose, to either entertain the reader or to even give a moral story that they think is true, but they use fictional characters to get that truth out, right?
That is true, but that's not what the Gospels were intending to do.
What were what was it? Yeah, this is actually good. What do you think the Gospels were intending to do?
I think that they were intending to tell, at the very least, what they believed to be the truth.
Okay. Do you think that there was some hyperbole going on, like some exaggeration?
There was definitely some, I don't know about exaggeration, but I would agree that there's some symbolism and metaphoric stuff in there, like when Jesus says he's the door, he doesn't literally have hinges. So there's definitely figurative language in there.
You're right. Do you think that there is an evolution of one author to another? So in other words, you can take the same story and see it growing?
Yeah, I've listened to Bart Ehrman talk about that in a couple of his, I guess you call them seminars. I'm not quite sure what position I would hold on that. I don't have a strong position on it, but I can kind of see it. Yes.
Yeah. Like in the resurrection narrative, which is probably the most important part, goes from, in Mark, the earliest gospel, goes from no resurrection appearances to Matthew and Luke having a variety of women and angels, to John, you have the women and then add on 2 men. Jesus loved. So it goes from 0 to some women to some women and men. And so you have to keep, if you believe it's all true, you have to keep adding things together and keep not throwing anything out.
Right. Well, there's 2 things I would say to that. I understand that the last, 9 verses of Mark were added later.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. I realize they're not in the earliest manuscripts, but my main position here is that when you look at everything as a collective case, it looks more probable. So looking at it as a collective case, it makes it easier to accept those extra verses. And in that case, we would have witnesses to the resurrection in Mark.
So you're saying when you put all four gospels together, it makes it more believable?
No, I should have clarified. I'm referring to all of the arguments, those 6Es. When you look at it as a collective argument, just one collective argument.
Yeah. So we've talked about early and eyewitness. What was the third one? You have it in front of you?
I can think of it. I just have one thing to add about the eyewitness testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I should have clarified this at first. I'm not in the best position to defend that one. I haven't looked into that one as much as I could have.
Defend what?
I'm sorry, what now?
You're not in the best position to defend the eyewitness one? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't done enough research on that one. But all I can really do is cite Roman historian Colin Hemmer, who's confirmed hundreds of eyewitness details in the text.
I didn't even ask the most simple question: is what does the term eyewitness mean to you?
Something only an eyewitness could know.
But what makes an eyewitness and an eyewitness?
What makes an eyewitness an eyewitness?
Yeah. So, for example, if you saw a red car and you said to me, Doug, I saw a red car, am I an eyewitness to the red car?
No, you would not be.
I would not be. You would be, right?
Right.
So, given the traditional authorship, Mark was written by Mark, an associate of Peter. Was Mark an eyewitness?
I'm not sure.
Well, we know Peter was, if we take the story at face value. But Mark was not a disciple of Jesus. Sure, he could have seen some things, but nowhere. It seems like his source is Peter, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So Mark, the first gospel, is not an eyewitness account.
I'm trying to...
Even if we assume Mark wrote it. Just like you
Yes.
said, I'm not an eyewitness to the red car, you are. Now, so you're Peter and I'm Mark, and you're telling me what you saw and I'm writing it down. I'm not an eyewitness. You are. Right? So Mark is not an eyewitness. Matthew, according to tradition, is a disciple of Jesus. Now, so he would be an eyewitness to a lot of the things, but was he an eyewitness to everything? Probably not.
Maybe not everything.
Like, how do we know when Jesus went in private and prayed and did stuff, was with Satan on the mountain? How do we know that actually happened? Who's the eyewitness? Right? When Jesus was born, according to the birth narrative in Matthew, was Matthew there? Of course not. So in the Gospel of Matthew, I don't know, maybe he saw half of what he wrote about. So if you're good at math, we have a 0 for Mark for eyewitness account, and Matthew maybe 50%. Luke, he wasn't an eyewitness, was he?
Well, about the things that they couldn't have known, like Jesus praying in private, and all this stuff like that. There's a number of possibilities for those things. I mean, he could have just told them.
Right, but it's not an eyewitness account. It's like you telling me you saw a red car.
Right.
And then I say, there was a red car. That's not an eyewitness account. That's me saying that you saw a red car. So if what you're saying is true, then the author of Matthew on certain things just wrote about things he heard from others.
Right.
Right. Which is called hearsay. So Mark, we don't have eyewitness account. Matthew, there's a lot in Matthew that there's no way he could have known, like the birth narrative and other things. Let's be generous. Let's say 75% he saw. Luke was not an eyewitness. He got his stuff according to tradition from Paul. Let's give him 75%. Because he wasn't there when Jesus was born. So he got to get his information from someone else. Now, John was an eyewitness. Oh, no, actually, I should say Luke is not an eyewitness at all. 0. 75% for John. So Luke was not an eyewitness. Mark was not an eyewitness. Matthew saw 75% of the stuff he wrote about. John saw 75% of the stuff he wrote about.
Yeah.
You know what?
I'm sorry.
If you do the math on that, that's about 40%, 45% of the Gospels is actual eyewitness account.
Yeah.
Even if you take the Christian perspective.
Right. I should have clarified like I said, I'm not the best equipped to defend the eyewitness reason, but the details that were confirmed by Colin Hemmer, they are in the book of John and Acts, I believe.
What could Colin confirm from 2,000 years ago?
Like I said, I'm not in the best position to defend that. I haven't looked into it.
My guess is it's archaeological digs, but to that I say, can't a book be right about real people and real places and still be wrong? That a man rose from the dead, walked on water, and all these things. I say, of course, that's reasonable to think that.
Yes, absolutely. That alone, yes. Like I said, it's when you look at the whole collective case.
So I still don't understand why you believe a man rose from the dead based on less than 50% eyewitness accounts in the Gospels, based on a guy named Paul who Jesus apparently had ascended into heaven before he even became a Christian.
Well, the reason I would find this to be probable would be the same reason that all of the renowned scholars on the matter find it to be probable.
You find it probable for the same reason the renowned scholars find it probable?
Yeah, like the New Testament scholars.
But what's one of the reasons why the New Testament scholars find it probable?
Well, I mean,
we already talked about eyewitness accounts, and it seems to me like if you're going to be consistent, you shouldn't believe it. You didn't believe your own girlfriend.
Well, those two scenarios would be, you'd have to ignore a lot of details to make them comparable. So I don't think there'd be any inconsistency in coming to the opposite conclusions.
Let's keep this very simple. If you read a book that said, a man said, I am God, does that mean that the man is God?
Not necessarily.
No. In fact, would you say it's more likely that that's wrong, or more likely that's right? A random book says, a man says, I am God. Would you lean towards that this is fiction or fact?
Given it that way, I would lead towards fiction.
Okay, and what if a book said, a man said, I am God, and oh, you can't see, you're blind? I put my hands on you, and now you see, but don't tell anyone. Is that more likely to be fact or fiction?
That alone.
Yeah, and I can keep on going like this. I don't understand what makes you think that, or what could get you over that hump to say, oh, no, now it is fact and not fiction.
I was not prepared to talk today. Let me try and think. Ask the question again.
What would it take for you to say, no, this is indeed fact and not fiction? that this person says, I'm God. He heals a blind man.
Okay. Well, there are a few things. As I said, and I'll be the first to tell you that each one of those E's is incomplete on its own. Together, they make a good probability case. That plus personal experiences that line up with it, plus the influence that it's had. The fact that it.
What,
I mean, if you want to talk.
okay, you've mentioned influence a couple times, and I've kind of ignored it until now. You think Christianity has had a huge influence in the world?
Yes.
Okay, so let's call that 10 out of 10 influence. Where do you put Islam?
Let me think of the math. Yeah, maybe like a 7.
7. Okay. Does that mean that Islam is 70% true and Christianity is 100% true?
No.
No, it has nothing to do with truth, right? Something can be completely false and have a huge influence, like Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how you connect the dots between influence and truth.
Well, I'm not claiming certainty.
Well, I'm not either. I'm saying even 95%. How do you go from big influence? Islam has had a huge influence in the world. So has Christianity. So has Judaism. So has Hinduism. Hinduism probably has had more influence than Islam. Yeah. Does that mean that karma and reincarnation is more likely to be true?
Well, this is where I would bring in the other two things that I mentioned. Those the historical arguments that we do have, and
But we're talking about the historical arguments, right?
Well, we're talking about influence right now.
Okay, that's not a historical argument. Okay, I thought you were talking about the influence in history, like J. Warner Wallace talks about how Christianity has influenced science and schools and hospitals. And
No.
okay,
another thing I would bring up is that as to why I believe it is more probable than not. It seems to me that it would have been trivially easy to prove that Jesus didn't raise from the dead.
by just going to the grave.
The body, they had 300 years to disprove it until Constantine made it tolerable, and then it skyrocketed.
So how would they have disproved it?
Well, they acknowledged the enemy. That's one of the E's, enemy testimony. They acknowledged that he was buried, and then
who acknowledged that Jesus was buried?
The Jews and who else is it? The Romans.
Okay, so you're saying, so how would they have proven Christianity to be false? What would they have done?
I mean, the claim is that the body's gone because he rose from the dead. They didn't believe that. They could have found the body.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It's my wife. Do I take it? Just hang on a second.
Go for
it. Sorry about that. What were we talking about?
We were talking about how the enemies could have debunked Christianity, or the resurrection specifically.
Oh, yeah. So they would have to know where the grave is, right?
Yes, I believe it was.
Do we know where the grave is today? No. There's a couple of spots that if you shell out a lot of cash, some Messianic Jews or Jews will tell you where they think it was, but we don't know where the grave was, right?
Right. Well, would you think that the people living at the time would know?
Yeah, but now you're assuming that Christianity is a big deal at all at the time, where people who desired to prove it false, even cared to do so. right?
Well, that seems to be the case. I mean, why did they crucify him if it wasn't a big deal, if he wasn't making an impact?
But no, we're talking about the resurrection, not the crucifixion.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why they would seek to disprove the resurrection, it'd be the same reason why they saw it fit to crucify him.
Oh, you're saying that because he said that he would rise to the third day, that, or what are you talking about? Because they, in their minds, they're thinking this guy's a goofball. We'll kill him, we'll crucify him, and he's dead.
Right.
Why would they care to go make sure he's dead?
Why would they care to make sure he's dead? I guess because they didn't want what he's teaching to be true.
Yeah, but that only works is if Jesus did indeed say that, hey, everybody, the Romans are going to kill me, and I'm going to rise from the dead 3 days later on the third day, right? Then what you're saying makes sense, that they would have reason and motive to actually go to the tomb in the first place, or wherever he is.
Right.
But do we even know that Jesus said that?
What most of these scholars agree on is that Jesus did have this influence, that he was crucified, and that
No, but do we know that Jesus actually predicted his own resurrection and that people understood that to happen? Now, it could be the case, but number one, we would have to know that the Gospels are reliable when it tells us that Jesus predicted his own death and resurrection, and that people understood that what he meant was himself and not the tabernacle, the temple, and that they had the desire or care to even go investigate. Because Christianity really didn't become popular until, like you mentioned, 200 or 300 years later.
Right.
You can't tell a body in order to prove that Jesus is still dead in a tomb, assuming he's in a tomb, you would have to be there within 72 hours or less. Because he would be in the process of decay.
Right.
So you got to actually have some reason to think that someone would care to be there within days to disprove a movement that barely had any legs to begin with and only became popular when people started to care about disproving it. By that time, it's decades, if not centuries later, and there's no way to disprove it.
Right. Is it not just established? Is it not an established fact that the enemies made up other reasons for his body's absence, like the hallucination theory and stuff like that?
His enemies? No.
Okay.
People do that now. And people maybe did that in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century. But at the time, like Jesus's enemies? No.
Okay.
I don't think there's any evidence to say that there was a hallucination theory back in 30 AD. Maybe there was. I don't know. Now, interesting enough, though, in 80, between 75 and 85, the author of Matthew says that there's tombs were placed in front of, guards were placed in front of the tombs.
Right.
So there was a stolen body theory arriving about 3 decades later.
Yeah.
No, 5 decades later. But that's not Jesus's enemies anymore. That's enemies of a movement, right?
How many decades later did you say?
5.
I'm not sure I would agree with that.
4. Like
Yeah.
if you're talking to J. Warner Wallace, he'll tell you it's like 2 or 3. But still, I mean, for Christians today, when they say, look how early these records are, we have Paul like 15, 20 years later. Do you remember, are you even 20 years old?
I'm 23.
Yeah. Have your mom tell you about something when you were, I don't know, 4 months old in detail. Good luck.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this was fun.
Oh, we're done?
I think so. I'm getting tired.
Okay. Well, I would like to do this again and be better equipped for it.
Well, the thing is, you're just trying to defend something you desire to be true, right?
No.
Do you want Christianity to be true?
I would like it to be true.
Do you love Jesus?
Yes.
Are you desirous of heaven?
Yes.
Are you fearful at least a little bit about hell?
Yes.
Yeah. You have huge bias and motivation to confirm your beliefs.
I would say no to that.
No?
It's possible to still be objective to the best of your ability.
Oh yeah, I didn't say it's impossible. I'm saying that the bias in you is so strong. Like, why not, instead of doing this again and coming back to me more prepared, why not we flip it? You come back to say reasons why a lot of the stuff in the Gospels are fiction, reasons how the Bible got put together and where it came from, how a lot of it could actually not be true and still be there. Why don't you come back prepared to take that side of the story?
You're saying like come back as someone who doesn't believe it?
Yes. If you value truth, it's more productive to do that than look for reasons to bolster up what you already believe.
Well, I wouldn't say that's what I've been doing.
Well, but that's kind of the impression I got when you said, I'm not prepared.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can elaborate on that. I've never talked on any sort of platform before.
No, but what would you do differently to prepare?
Well, maybe I wouldn't have so many nerves about, going live in front of who knows how many people.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I take it for granted because to me, it's no big deal. But I thought what you meant by prepare is that you read up on some apologetics.
No, and that's actually something that irritates me about this discussion. I think I have quite sufficient knowledge on this matter, but my mind would go blank at the worst possible times.
I see.
I'm really going to regret going back and watching this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes that happens. And if it's nerves, then, I don't know what to help you with that. I guess maybe you could not show your face. Maybe that will calm you down. But then I can't get the interaction.
Right. I mean, it's like I said, I would be down to do it again. I think I could just, be better prepared.
Yeah. The thing is, in my opinion, it's basically a waste of time because these are not the real reasons.
Partially.
These are not the real reasons you believe. Like the reason you believe in the first place is because of a personal experience. And so that is what I think we should talk about if you come back.
Okay. You want to go ahead and end it now? You don't want to talk about that? No.
Yeah, we'll end it now. We'll save it for next time.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Okay, take care.
All right, thank you.
Man, I'm getting phone calls and distractions. Okay, focus on the chat here. Thanks, Christy. Millions of people love PineCreek. Yeah, that shows my influence. So whatever I say must be true, right? Thanks for the donation, Tony D. Why does Jesus wear glasses? Yeah, would Jesus ever wear glasses? I doubt it. How many bodies has this guy exhumed? Yeah, this whole idea, all they had to do was show the bones of Jesus. You gotta assume they cared. You gotta assume they knew where he was. You gotta assume that they were there immediately within the 4th or 5th day digging, and because in the heat of Palestine, in the heat of Jerusalem, I have apologists saying it was hot that time of year. Another apologist saying it was cold that time of year. Yeah, Tanner was sincere, Trevor. I don't know, though, if his mind went blank because of the nerves, or if he's just not used to those types of questions being asked. My apologies to John Marriott, PhD. He was scheduled to come on and talk about the fear he has of Christians leaving Christianity and going to hell, but we ran out of time.